Testing, 1, 2, testing. Okay, it's 5 o'clock. I want to say good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Planning Commission meeting, Victorville, California, March 13th, 2024. I will call this meeting to order, and we will start with roll call, please.
Commissioner Marsh,
Here.
Commissioner Messon is not here. Commissioner Thomas, Vice Chair Cook-Askins, Chair Kurth.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you. And if you please rise, we're going to start with the invocation led to us by Commissioner Thomas, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening, first thanking you for your many blessings. Father, we ask that you be with us in our deliberations today, guide us in our decisions, Father. And Father, just continue to bless the city of Victorville, its citizens, and our surrounding neighbors. And Father, be with us as we move forward. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this point, we open it up to general public comments. This would be anyone that would want to speak to the commission regarding an item that is not on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the commission during open public comments?
I have no speaker cards.
Okay, seeing no one, I will close the general public hearing period. Next item is approval of minutes. We have two sets of minutes that need action regarding the meetings of January 10th, 2024 and our February 14th, 2024 regular Planning Commission meetings. They can go together.
Commissioner Thomas moved that the minutes of the January 10th, 2024 and February 14th, 2024 minutes be approved.
A second.
I have a first by Commissioner Thomas, a second by Commissioner Marsh. We'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Marsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Messon. Yes. Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cook-Askins.
Yes.
Chair Kurth.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. That moves us into our public hearing items. This would be agenda item number 2, a proposed hotel near Bear Valley Road. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Chairman Kurth, fellow commissioners. Item number 2 is case PLAN 23-00026. It is a site plan and conditional use permit with an environmental exemption to allow for the development of a 152-room residence and Marriott hotel on an undeveloped parcel zone C2 general commercial. This is located generally at south of Bear Valley Road, directly north of Bear Valley Road, directly behind a warehouse shoe store. Staff's recommending approval of this proposal. It is located within the C2 district, which conditionally allows hotels. This proposal is a 5-story hotel, totaling approximately 100,000 square feet. This is developed as a suites hotel. All rooms come equipped with kitchenette and dedicated office space with hotel amenities, including meeting rooms, fitness center, pool, patio with cooking facilities and fireplace. It includes a dining hall, guest facilities, including laundry and small guest market. The project is proposed on a 2-acre site. And with that, the proposal also has off-street parking that is adjacent to the site. The proposal on-site parking includes 122 spaces and then an additional 35 spaces, which is located on the WSS shoe site next to the proposal. Our municipal code does allow for this type of parking adjacent to to a development. And in this case, included as attachment D to the staff report, there is an included reciprocal access and shared parking agreement to show that those dedicated 35 parking stalls would be utilized by the hotel. In addition, the building is slightly above what's outright permitted by the municipal code. Our C2 district allows for a height of 45 feet unless otherwise approved by the Planning Commission. Our general plan does allow for commercial uses to go up to 120 feet in height. I would like to point out that this proposal is at a maximum height of 64 feet, with most of the roof line at 58 feet 9 inches. The Planning Commission has previously approved hotel sites at 54 feet, 60 feet, and 57 feet in recent years. And with that, the proposal meets all commercial design guidelines. The 5-story building has variety of materials, roof plane and wall plane breaks to make it compliant with our commercial design guidelines. And therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Commission conduct a public hearing, receive testimony regarding the proposed project, and take the following actions to find the project categorically exempt per SEQA section 15332 of the California Environmental Quality Act entitled Infill Development Projects, adopt resolution number P-24-006, approving the conditional use permit portion of case number PLAN 23-26, and also adopt resolution number P-24-007, approving the site plan portion of this case. Staff is available should you have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Webb. Does the commission have any questions for staff on this project?
I have a quick one. I know we approved a couple other hotels off Armagosa, 395, and the Avis is currently under construction. Do we still see a need as far as capacity goes? Does staff still see that?
That is hard to say. We do have a couple more hotels that have kind of been submitting pre-submittal applications, mainly in the Monarch area. So this is kind of a trend right now to be building in this part of the city. But it's kind of fits the pattern of what you'd see calling this kind of main and main next to the Victor Valley Mall and our restaurant row. This is suitable or typical development you would see in those type of areas.
Okay, if there's no other questions, then I'm going to open up the public hearing portion of agenda item number 2. Do we have any speaker cards on 2?
We do not.
Okay. Is there anyone? Yeah, if you could come up to the microphone. If you could just give us your name and tell us who you are for the record.
My name is Darshan Patel. I represent the ownership group that will be developing this property here. To answer your question, Commissioner, we do see a need for this particular project here. This will be the first, as far as we're aware at this point in time, a true extended stay hotel that you'll have here in Victorville, where the actual hotel will have full kitchen facilities in them. You'll have an oven, stove, full refrigerator, microwave, things of that sort. So people that are staying here for extended periods of time, which we find a lot of people are doing here in Victorville, they'll be able to utilize those facilities as opposed to the other hotels that are currently in the area that are only for transient customers more than anything else. And since I'm here, I'm happy to answer any other questions that any of the commissioners may have.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course.
Anyone else have questions for the applicant representative? Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Then with that, I will close the public hearing on agenda item number 2, and I will bring it back to the commission for a determination.
I, Commissioner Thomas, move that that we approve staff's recommendation.
I'll second that.
I have a first by Commissioner Thomas, a second by Commissioner Marsh. I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Marsh?
Yes.
Commissioner Messin?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas? Vice Chair Cook Askins?
Yes.
Chair Kurth?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, that moves us on to agenda item number 3, vesting track map.
Thank you, Chairman Kurth. Fellow commissioners, item number 3 is case PLAN 23-15. It is a 3-year extension of time for a vesting tentative track map with an addendum to a previously adopted mitigated negative declaration to allow for the creation of 132 single-family residential lots on approximately 36 acres of property zoned R1 single-family residential. This is located at the northeast corner of Berceo Street and Dos Palmas. The proposal was originally approved by the Planning Commission back in 2018 when it received a 3-year time approval. There was subsequent state legislation that automatically extended the map pursuant to the subdivision map. Pursuant to the Subdivision Map Act, this map is allowed to apply for 2 more time extensions. So this would be its first of 2 time extensions that it could apply for. The proposal still meets municipal code standards. It is within an R1 district. Each of the lots is a minimum of 7,200 square feet. The maximum density proposed is 3.6 units per acre, where the underlying district allows up to 5 units per acre. And with that, it is a vesting tentative map, and what that means is when the map was submitted for a time extension, which dates back to June 12th of last year, that vesting entitlement allows that map and the development that occurs on it to only be held to the city standards that were in place back on June 12th of 2023 when the map was submitted. That vesting right goes away a year after the map is recorded, but it does give some surety to the developer that they can build under current standards. And with that, staff's recommending the Planning Commission conduct a public hearing, receive testimony regarding the proposed project, and take the following actions by adopting the amended mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring reporting program for the project, and adopt resolution number P-24-032, approving the 3-year time extension for vesting tentative track map 20122, which is case number PLAN 23-00015. And with that, staff's available should you have questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on this one for staff from the commissioners?
Just one question. I noticed that on the resolutions, the new resolutions, that there's a lot of changes. Is that just updating the language?
It should mirror some of the same development standards that you saw in the original resolutions. However, we did add the additional mitigation measures that were specified in the mitigated negative declaration.
Okay. I was wondering, because it's a vesting map, would the new proposed requirement of CFD apply in this case?
Yes, the CFD would apply because the Planning Commission's taking a discretionary action again. Since it wasn't applied to the last approval, it can be applied here.
Okay, thanks. Okay, do we have any cards for agenda item number 3? Any speakers?
We do not.
None. Okay, if the applicant is not here, then I will, oh, yes, if you could just state name and everything for the record.
Good evening, Chair Kurth, members of the commission. This is Bo Cooper. I'm the entitlement director for United Engineering Group. here representing the property owner and the applicant who apologizes for not being here. He was under the weather today, so. But we have reviewed and are familiar with all the conditions of approval. We have no questions or objections, and I am available for any questions.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions for the applicant's representative? Nope. Okay, thank you. Then I will close the public hearing portion of agenda item number 3 and bring that back to the commission for a decision.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to adopt agenda item number 3 according to staff recommendations.
I second.
I have a first by Commissioner Marsh, a second by Commissioner Messin. We'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Marsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Messin,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cook Askins.
Yes.
Chair Kurth.
Yes,
Motion passes unanimously.
thank you. The next items, number 4, 5, and 6 are similar. So I'll turn it over to the staff report. Staff will give us a report on 4, 5, and 6 together.
Thank you, Chairman Kerr, fellow commissioners. Yes, as you mentioned, items 4, 5, and 6 all pertain to a proposal from the Victorville Water Department, which will add additional antennas for their omnidirectional antenna system to monitor water meters. So we do want to give an overview of the whole proposal, and then we'll have each of the items which are grouped together by region. We will open the public hearing for each of those items to take testimony. But with that, I'd like to have our Associate Planner, Daisy Kawasaki, give us an overview of the proposal.
Thank you, Scott, and good evening, Planning Commissioners. As the City Planner referenced, I'm here to give a brief presentation for the project that is referenced by agenda items 4, 5, and 6 tonight. This overall project will allow for the construction of 60-foot tall towers for the purpose of mounting 5-foot tall advanced metering infrastructure, or AMI, antennas to be utilized by the Water Department on 12 individual properties owned by the City of Victorville's Water Department. So just to give some background to the project, this has been in the works for quite some time. Beginning in 2015 and ending in 2021, the Victorville Water District replaced all of the more than 37,000 water meters in the city with new advanced meter reading, or rather, advanced meter reading meters, or smart meters. These smart meters send readings wirelessly to handheld devices that a meter reader carries, and then that data is automatically transferred to a central database for analysis and billing. Even with smart meters in place, a meter reader is still required to drive throughout the city, collect the data, and to collect all the data citywide takes approximately 7 days to do so. So this proposal for an AMI system, or advanced metering infrastructure system, is going to speed that up. So it's noted as a goal within the 2021 Water Master Plan, and additionally the 2023 to 2026 Victorville Strategic Plan, to implement this advanced metering infrastructure system to take advantage of existing technology that's already offered by these AMI meters. It'll allow for real-time notifications to identify potential issues from meter tampering to continuous use. Detailed usage data will be available with this AMI system, so a customer service representative can have immediate access to a consumer's consumption information. If a customer calls with a high water bill complaint, the customer service rep can give them a complete picture of how and when they are using water. This could even mean if I'm a customer within the district and I'm out of town and I'm looking at the online portal that would eventually be put in place with this AMI system to see that there's water being used, that might help me understand that there's a leak somewhere at my house. And additionally, rather than taking 7 days to read this citywide water meter data, It'll be instantaneously available to all consumers and customer service representatives. Okay. So the overall plan came about when the city's water departments consulted with their AMI vendor and a radio frequency engineering team as part of that. Where possible, they are proposing to install these AMI data collection antennas on existing infrastructure. So to co-locate on existing park lights, traffic lights, water tanks, existing towers in the city. Where co-location isn't possible though, they are proposing these 12 60-foot tall towers that they will place throughout the city. And then 2 additional towers that are in the water district's boundaries, but out of the city's jurisdiction in the county's district, that will require separate entitlement through. And working together, these AMI data collection sites will cover all of the meters in the city, and include overlapping data fields built in for redundancy in the event that a data collector site stops working. So this image we have here on the screen shows all of the proposed AMI facilities, including the standalone towers and the co-locations proposed. And then this is an image from the propagation map that the water department provided, just showing how that coverage would be achieved with all of these 30+ sites. So the overall tower design that they've come up with, it's a 60-foot tall tower. It's an aluminum tower. It'll be approximately 2.5 feet wide at the base and then taper up to about 1.5 feet wide at the top. On it will be mounted a 5-foot tall, let's go back, AMI antenna. It'll be mounted at the 55-foot mark on the tower so that the top of it does not extend above the 60-foot tall tower. They chose this tower design for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's a better design than perhaps a slimline pole for co-location of future water department infrastructure. And second, because it matches the design of existing towers in the city. This is an image of an existing tower that we've got in the city just off of Elevado Road. This particular tower is not 60 feet, but this rendering was done to show how that 5-foot tall tower would be, I'm sorry, the 5-foot tall antenna would be mounted at the top of the tower, not to extend above that tower. Additionally, it shows that no additional base stations or equipment enclosures would be required for this project. So the project is proposed in 3 phases. Each of these 12 proposed standalone towers has been separated into one of these 3 phases based on their geographic location within the city, as well as the water department's construction phasing plan. Phase 1 includes 4 towers in the western region of the city. Phase 2 would include 4 towers in the eastern region of the city, and then phase 3 would kind of fill in those gaps that phase 1 and 2 doesn't provide coverage for. So an additional 4 towers in the central region of the city. The water department has indicated that to meet their strategic plan goal completion timeline, they anticipate completion of this project within 12 months of entitlement approval. And then I've provided there the planning case numbers, which would also correspond to agenda items 4, 5, and 6, respectively. So the vicinity map here is just to show where those towers in the phase 1 or the western region of the city would be located. We have a tower proposed, we're referring to tower site 1A. This is a tank site off of La Mesa Road. Site 1B is a well site off of Oakry Lane. Site 1C is a retention basin at Dos Palmas and Highway 395. And then site 1D would be a tank site on Lepanto Road over by the aqueduct at the southern border of the city. Additionally, the map on the left-hand side shows those two county sites that would require separate entitlement through the county. And then moving on to our eastern side, or our phase 2 of the project, we've got a tower proposed at a water department maintenance site on Hesperia Road in Eureka. Another tower proposed on 11th Street, just north of the Victor Valley Global Medical Center. A tower proposed just in between the Neutro plant and the railroad tracks there. And then finally, one at a tank site on Balsam Road, just south of Nisqually. And our last and final phase in the center area of the city would include a well site on Camelback Drive at the Green Tree Golf Course, a well site on Cazadero Road, a tank site on Seneca Road, and a well site on Pamela Lane. So we sent notices out to all property owners within a 300-foot radius of each of these 12 sites. We received several inquiries about the project and even met with a few concerned citizens to hear and address the concerns they had. Primarily after receiving more information about the project, people were generally in support of the project and the benefits that they'd receive as water district consumers. We received written correspondence from 2 individuals that were provided to the planning commissioners prior to tonight's hearing. One comment indicated they are opposed to the tower in a single family residential zone district. That was the tower on Cazadero Road. Staff still believes that sufficient evidence has been provided by the applicant to allow for the tower in an R1 zone pursuant to municipal code allowances and maintains the recommendation to approve the tower. And secondly, the second comment was in favor of the tower, but asked that the antenna be covered. And staff would like to note that the antenna is covered with a protective coating and will match the color of the adjacent tower that it'll be mounted upon. With that, I'm available with any questions as well as water department staff that may be able to assist with more technical questions related to this system.
Thanks. Does the commission have any questions at this time?
I have just a quick one, and I noticed that in 1B on Orion Lane, it's not necessarily behind a home, it's in between 2 homes in a cul-de-sac, correct?
It is. It's at an existing well site, so there is existing water infrastructure there. But yes, you are correct. It's an existing facility that's located in a neighborhood.
Thank you. And then I have one more. I'm not sure if it would be you or the water district, but based off the height, I'm assuming that in preliminary research, it's determined that that would be the best height to get the best coverage in the city and not have to include additional towers.
Yeah, he says, yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
I have a question. Being that these towers, I guess, is going to be the new reading format for water usage, is this going to also be used to create fines for the residents that might be using might be using too much water or watering on off days, or I mean, is it going to be used for that purpose also?
Good evening. It will be with the, they'll have connection to it with through email, or they'll get some kind of notice where the usage is being done through Conservation Department.
So the customer will get a warning first before they're issued a fine?
Yeah, I don't think I'm not sure about a fine. I've never heard anything about that yet.
Okay.
I think what you might be getting at is the fact that if currently a vehicle drives past, checks the reading for that month. In this case, if it's real-time data and the city now or in the future has an ordinance, a non-watering ordinance or something like that, Is that where they could catch someone in real time? Is that a, I don't mean to use the word catch, but is that something that's in the plan?
I'm sure it is, yes.
Kind of getting at?
The capability for that is there.
So is that something that the city, I mean, is that something that's in the plans to utilize? I mean, in addition to reading people's meters,
Yes, that would be correct.
that would, okay. And the other, I guess the other question I have too, as far as, I mean, as far as, to the consumer, is this implementation gonna possibly create a higher water, we pay more for water because of these towers?
I don't believe so. I'm not sure I can answer that. I don't know. I don't know that.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Marsh, if I could chime in here and answer to that question, these improvements are part of the master plan for water, so they've already been accounted for in our current plan.
Will this system assist in leak detection?
Yes, yeah, it'll notify the customer if a meter has been moving for the continuous use for 24 hours. So then it'll notify them by either, however they're set up, by a phone call or email.
Do you know how we're looking as far as future expansion? We understand that this service is all existing built homes, but we know here pretty soon, especially like maybe on the west side of 395, we're going to see some of these homes build out, over the next year or a few years. Is that just going to require more of these towers, or do we have some pretty good coverage right now?
Right now,
The future.
right now, as it stands for the future, it has pretty good coverage. But we'll have to assess as they keep moving west or even south of the city.
So these 12 should kind of do us good for a while.
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have. Anyone else? No? Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing on number 4, even though we got an overview on all 3 items because they're very similar. I do need to break these out by each one separately. So number 4 is the first 4 sites, and I will I'll open up that public hearing. Do we have any speaker cards for number 4?
We do not.
Okay, so I will close the public hearing and I'll bring it back to the commission on item number 4.
I, Commissioner Thomas, move for approval of staff's recommendation on item number 4.
I second that.
I have a first by Commissioner Thomas, a second by Commissioner Messin. I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Marsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Messin,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cook Askins,
Yes.
Chair Kurth.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And then number 5 is a similar thing, and this covers the next 4 sites. So do we have any speaker cards for item number 5?
We do not.
Okay, then I will close the public hearing on item number 5 and bring it back to the commission.
I'll make a motion to adopt agenda item number 5 according to staff recommendations.
I second that motion.
I have a first by Commissioner Marsh, a second by Vice Chair Cook Askins. Take a roll call vote. Commissioner Marsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Messin,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas, Vice Chair Cook Askins, Chair Kurth.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And then item number 6, which covers the final 4 sites. I'll open the public hearing. Do we have any speaker cards?
We do not.
Okay, I will close the public hearing on item number 6 and bring that back to the commission as well.
I move to approve as staff recommends.
I'll second.
I have a first by Commissioner Messin, a second by Commissioner Marsh. I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Marsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Messin,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas, Vice Chair Cook Askins,
Yes.
Chair Kurth.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, that moves us on to number 7, having to do with our municipal code possible updates. Staff report on number 7, please.
Thank you, Chairman Kerr, fellow commissioners. As you may recall, this discussion started back in July of last year when staff brought forward a discussion item, and there was the consensus of the commission to bring forward a proposed ordinance and start the public hearing process. So we have started that, and today, with the public noticing that we've done, I'm want to hand it over to your Assistant City Planner, Alex Haddagy, to give an overview of the proposal, and then let you know why staff's recommending a continuance tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, thank you. Agenda item number 7 is case number PLAN 22-00002. It is an amendment to the Victorville Municipal Code with an environmental exemption, making various changes to Title 16 to regulate the retail sale of alcohol and tobacco for off-site consumption by updating existing operating standards and introducing new operating standards applicable to new and existing businesses within the city of Victorville, which include but are not limited to standards relating to property maintenance, alcohol and tobacco display area, alcohol and tobacco signage, tobacco paraphernalia, and the prohibited sales of single-serve alcoholic beverages and drug paraphernalia, as well as initial and annual compliance, inspection, and licensing processes. As Mr. Webb noted, we are recommending a continuance of this item due to a large amount of comments we received on this proposal, and they noted concerns with the prohibited single-serve alcoholic beverages requirements, signage restrictions, and prohibited flavored tobacco. I would also note that we received comments in support of the proposal that discussed their experiences with alcohol and tobacco sales within the city of Victorville, and also requested in one case to expedite the implementation timeline that is proposed within the proposal at this time. With that, staff did include a recommendation in the updated late memo that notes that the Planning Commission conduct a public hearing, receive testimony regarding the proposed project, and continue this item to the Planning Commission's April 10th, 2024 meeting. However, before any action, staff has prepared a brief PowerPoint to go over the history of the item, how we got to where we are today, and what's included in the proposed amendment. Here we are. I'll begin with the regulation history of the item. Beginning in 2013, the city of Victorville has adopted numerous ordinances regulating the sale of alcoholic beverages and off-sale tobacco. Prior to 2013, standards focused on sites within over-concentrated census tracts or within 300 feet of residential property. Currently, our municipal code has requirements on conditional use permits for most off-sale businesses, operating standards for new off-sale businesses, and limited exceptions for a finding of public convenience or necessity within the city of Victorville, primarily only allowing large retailers and fueling stations to obtain a finding of public convenience or necessity. As for the basis for the amendment, generally speaking, we currently have a lack of a compliance monitoring process. We've had new state laws over the last couple of years relating to tobacco sales and prohibiting the sales of flavored tobacco within the state of California. And as Mr. Webb noted, there was a Planning Commission recommendation in July of 2023 to bring forward a formal proposal to the Planning Commission for their review. Currently, state records show that 63 alcohol licensed establishments to sell off-sale alcohol, 63 of those, and 65 tobacco retailers would be subject to a deemed approved ordinance as proposed. Of those retailers, 11 currently in operation are subject to our current standards. So there's 11 businesses currently that have a conditional use permit that was enacted and applied for after the city's most recent regulations on alcohol and tobacco. Most of the remaining 52 businesses selling alcohol are not subject to any scheduled compliance inspections through the city of Victorville, or either by the state or local level, and these rely primarily on complaint-based inspections. A brief overview of the proposed amendment is presented in this slide. Generally speaking, the amendment will update and clarify existing operating standards to add property maintenance and upkeep requirements, tobacco and tobacco paraphernalia, display area limitations, exterior alcohol and tobacco signage prohibitions, prohibited sales of certain items, and annual compliance inspections. Many of these items are currently addressed in our municipal code as it stands today, which we'll discuss here in the next few slides. Some of these are new items. With regards to existing regulations for alcohol sales, currently a conditional use permit is required for all new businesses looking to have alcohol sales. With regard to a finding of public convenience or necessity, our municipal code currently essentially prohibits the new establishment of alcohol sales establishments within over-concentrated census tracts. There is exceptions for large retailers that are over 8,000 square feet in size and fueling stations, and that's only in instances where they limit the display area of alcohol sales to 10% of their retail floor area, and they are limited to beer and wine sales only. We also currently have separation requirements of 600 feet from sensitive uses. Sensitive uses would be defined as residentially zoned property, public or private schools, religious facilities, or parks and playgrounds. So currently that is applicable to off-site beverage sales or bars and nightclubs that are looking to establish within the city of Victorville. Additionally, we have operating standards that are in our municipal code now that address site standards, lighting, refuse collection, landscaping maintenance. We have operating standards to look at loitering deterrence and reduction of alcohol-related problems. Our municipal code also prohibits the sale currently of drug paraphernalia, prohibits window coverings that would reduce visibility into the interior of the building, and currently our code prohibits the exterior advertising of alcoholic products and tobacco paraphernalia. Additionally, our code currently addresses the requirements for posting of documents. This would be things like an alcohol license from the California Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control, a business license, and or a conditional use permit. And we have training requirements currently that require responsible beverage service training through the California Department of Alcohol Beverage Control, which is proposed to be updated in this ordinance to a more appropriate licensee education and alcohol and drugs program, which is more geared towards off-site sales. With regard to tobacco retailers, our current operational standards limit display area to 10% of floor area. Tobacco paraphernalia is limited to a single 2 foot in depth by 4 foot in length single shelf space. And our current code prohibits the distribution of free or low-cost tobacco and prohibits the use of coupons for tobacco. With regards to our new regulations proposed with alcohol sales, we would institute a deemed approved process. Essentially, this would deem all non-conforming alcoholic beverage sales establishments as deemed approved establishments. This would make them subject to all existing and proposed operating standards. Again, there are exemptions in this requirement for large retailers over 8,000 square feet in size. The training requirements as discussed for licensee education in alcohol and drugs would also be included. It should be noted that these standards would also include operational standards intended to mimic the operational standards that are in place for alcohol retailers. This would again include the establishment of language that would deem these non-conforming businesses as deemed approved establishments. And include the operational standards noted, which would include public nuisance measures, prohibited sales of flavored tobacco and mobile vending as well, Again, flavored tobacco is now currently prohibited statewide by various Senate bills noted in the staff report. With regards to compliance monitoring, this would also be a new addition. This would add an initial compliance inspection, which would be prior to allowing any non-compliant businesses to proceed or new businesses to open. Once initial compliance inspections are passed, they would be granted deemed approved status for alcohol retailers, and for tobacco retailers would be granted tobacco retailer status. Once retailers are granted that status, they would be subject to an annual inspection in conjunction with their business license. And as part of that function, the business license would be updated to have notes when a retailer has obtained those statuses for quick identification on that license itself. Additionally, violations are included to clarify what violations would be applicable for retailers that are not in compliance with current municipal code standards. Currently, the fee for violations begins at $100 for the first violation, and it goes up to $1,000 when we're at four or more violations. As you'll see in the upcoming slides, that process is not, retailers are not implemented a violation right off the bat. They have some compliance periods that they're provided as proposed. So to give you an example how that compliance would work, an existing business would be provided a 12-month compliance window when their business license is up for renewal. They would then have 30 days prior to business license renewal to complete that inspection. If they fail that initial compliance inspection, they have 30 days to correct that violation. At that point, after the 30 days of the correction, they could be issued a notice of violation and accounted for their first violation with fees. Assuming they pass that reinspection or the first inspection, they would be issued a business license. And then from there on out, they would be subject to annual monitoring. For a new business, an example of their process. Begin with the entitlement. A new business is required to obtain a conditional use permit. It would move to the business license application. It would then move on to a compliance inspection, which is required before opening. In this case, for a new business, they would be provided 15 days if they fail that initial inspection because they're a new business and they haven't been subject to opening yet. And then ultimately they would be issued a business license and subject to annual inspections. And lastly, the general implementation timeline is presented before you. New businesses, we would anticipate to begin immediately upon effective date of the amendment. So any new entitlement, as we've been doing on existing entitlements, would be subject to all the requirements of the updated code. Non-conforming businesses would begin with the next business license renewal period. So upon a business license renewal, as it goes throughout the year, they'd be provided 12 months from that date. So it would essentially be a rolling implementation period over a 24-month period for non-conforming businesses currently. And for compliant businesses, these would be businesses that comply with current standards. They would begin annually with their upcoming business license renewal. And with that, staff is available for any questions you may have on the item.
Well, thank you, Mr. Haddadi. If there are any questions on that staff report by the commissioners?
I have two. So just to clarify, the single serve is a single can, right?
Correct. Our definitions included in the proposal identify what single serve is in terms of distilled spirits. It goes by size in milliliters. And for malt beverages or beer, it would be, yes, a single can.
Okay. And then does ABC have to reapprove licenses with the change, or how does that work with ABC?
Yes, that's a great question. That's one of the items we're going to be researching with the comments that we received in the late memo. The California Business Professions Code and the allowances that are there for existing licenses and how that would be enforce in relation to our proposal as it stands today to revoke single serve allowances. Potentially, there's allowances that are noted that may prohibit the city from taking actions to prohibit existing businesses, but that's something we need to research and the impetus for the recommendation of continuance.
And then, sorry, I have one more, which I don't know if that can be addressed or if it's under this, but I've seen before that you tend to see single cans taped together so that they're sold as two in a package. That way they're not single serve. Is that addressed in this ordinance, or does it matter how it's packaged so that it's not sold singly?
Yes, it's addressed in this ordinance and it's actually currently addressed in our definition now. It reads as manufacturer's original packaging.
Okay, thank you so much.
Commissioner Marsh, any questions at this time? Nothing. Commissioner Cook Haskins?
No questions at the time.
Commissioner Thomas?
No, thank you.
Okay. I'm sure we'll bring it back and have some more discussion, but it would be good now to open up the public hearing portion. Do we know how many speaker cards we have at this time?
We have 8.
We have 8 speaker cards. Okay. I am going to open up the public hearing and we'll go through the 8 speakers. I want to ask that we limit your presentation or your comments of approval or disapproval or whatever you may have for 2 minutes. So if somebody else comes up and says, you know, I feel the same, I have the same, you know, issues or beliefs, go ahead and say that. Otherwise, please state your case within a couple minutes. I don't know if you've heard, but the city is requesting for this item to be continued to next month's meeting, even though we'd still open up the public hearing for you tonight because it was advertised. But there are some things that have come up recently that the city staff feels that they would like to address and tighten up. And so there's a good chance that tonight will be voted on to possibly continue to the next meeting. But we want to hear from you anyways. So we'll go ahead with the first card.
Our first speaker is Michael Grabhorn.
Welcome.
Planning Commission and city staff. I'm Mike Grabhorn. I'm one of the founding members of the High Desert Community Coalition. And you may remember several years ago, we did smoke shop and tobacco retailer inspections and assessments. And the purpose for that was at the time they were selling the spice and bath salts, which were killing kids, causing all sorts of problems. We were able to do the assessments and present that to the Board of Supervisors, and they passed a law making that illegal to sell. But one other thing that we did as we were doing the smoke shop assessments, I myself am a recovering addict, and I noticed in the smoke shops, every single one of them, they sell pipes that are used to smoke methamphetamine. And if you're not familiar with them, it's a long tube with a round ball on the end. You heat the meth, you swirl it around, and you inhale it. And I asked them how they were able to do this, and they said, well, because we call them oil burners. We don't call them meth pipes. So they're telling me just because they changed the name, it's now legal for them. Even though you can buy it, as soon as you walk out the door, you can be arrested for having drug paraphernalia. I just think it was ridiculous. And so we started doing assessments, looking at all the other things. There's a lot of things that they sell that are used to smoke methamphetamine, crack cocaine, and heroin. And these are in the smoke shops. I don't think they have any place to be in our community and to be sold outright and on display in a smoke shop. So that was my big focus on it. As we started working with the city, and I want to thank Scott and Alex and all those involved, we have been working on this for 3 years. And as we got along, we noticed that
Your time is up.
Time's up?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I was on a roll. Thank you.
Well, we'll probably see you back here again, and thank you for your comments, sir.
Our next speaker is Linda Titus.
Hello.
Good evening, Diocese. I'd like to call you by name, so I only have 2 minutes. So I am Linda Titus. I'm a resident, mother, grandmother, servant, community avid healthcare professional in the high desert. I live, worship, volunteer, work, shop, and play in Victorville. As a member of the High Desert Community Coalition, the Coalition for Tobacco-Free San Bernardino County, Parents Against Vaping PAVE, I am elated to see the TRLDAO in fruition. Thank you very much. I am here to support option 1. It is totally acceptable as the version for environmental assessment and code assessment point. I worship here in Victorville, and there are four convenience stores within 600 feet of my place of worship, which is also a private school. That is a nuisance because we have been plagued with human trafficking, accidents, abductions, motor vehicle accidents of all sorts. And option 2 is not acceptable with single serve because I am also an adopted street person. I have an adopted street, and most of my cleanup, 90% of it, relates to single serve and other disposable bottles of alcohol and cigarette butts. These are exciting times with Measure P passing, community support groups in place, and this is a comprehensive TRL-DAO with all components for enforcement. We will have a safe, healthy, and desirable city for retailers and residents alike. Thank you for your due diligence with ensuring that this TRL and ADO is in alignment with state laws and community needs. I am part of the Victorville Lions Club, and we are so excited because this meets
Your
all
time
of
is
our
up.
global causes. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is David Griner.
Welcome.
Good evening. I'm here representing a consortium of some of the grandfathered in liquor stores. To the extent it's going to be continued, we look forward to working with staff. We have a very small line item with respect to the flavored tobacco panacea, difficulty in enforcement, submitted something for your review. So thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Josue Sanchez.
Hello.
Hello. Honorable members of the City Council and Planning Commission. My name is Josue Sanchez, and I am a father of 3 elementary school children and resident of the city of Victorville. I stand before you today to address a matter of great concern that affects the heart of our community, the sale of alcohol and tobacco near our schools. This issue strikes at the core of our responsibility to nurture and safeguard the well-being of our children, who represent the future of our city. The presence of alcohol and tobacco retailers in close proximity to our schools possess a significant threat to the health and safety of our students. These establishments not only normalize the consumption of harmful substances, but also make them readily available to our impressionable youth. The accessibility not only undermines the efforts of parents and educators to instill values of health and responsibility, but also expose our children to the risk of addiction, academic decline, and long-term health consequences. As stewards of our community's welfare, it is incumbent upon us to take a decisive action to address this issue. We must work together to enact policies that restrict the sale of alcohol and tobacco near schools, thereby creating safer environments where our children can learn and thrive without the undue influence of harmful substances. This may include implementing zoning regulations, licensing restrictions, or other measures to prevent the proliferation of these establishments in areas frequented by students. Moreover, we must engage the local businesses, community organizations, and stakeholders to foster a culture of responsibility and accountability when it comes to the sale and promotion of alcohol and tobacco. By working collaboratively, we can create a community-wide approach to addressing this issue, ensuring that our children are protected from the harmful effects of substance abuse. In conclusion, I urge the City Council to prioritize the health and well-being of our children. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments.
Our next speaker is Kenneth Archery III.
Hello.
Hello, good evening, Chairman Kurth, distinguished commissioners, and city staff. My name is Kenneth Archery III. I'm a High Desert resident here before you on behalf of Funded with Lady K, a small business in Victorville, California, to provide my comments and education on Agenda Item 7. As a concerned resident and teacher of the High Desert, I believe that it's crucial to express my thoughts on this matter for the betterment of our community. On October 7, 2023, Governor Gavin Newsom signed Assembly Bill AB 3935 into law, making another crucial step into protecting kids and communities of color from big tobacco's deadly impact. AB 935 upholds the will of California voters by strengthening enforcement for SB 793, the state's restriction on the sale of most flavored tobacco products. The law aligns SB 793 with the enforcement processes set up in the STAKE Act, California's law addressing the illegal sale of tobacco products to underage individuals. While the state law is still a step in the right direction, other cities in San Bernardino County, such as Hesperia, Adelanto, have taken a step further by implementing standalone tobacco retail licensing ordinances that provide the structure and financial means for local enforcement of tobacco sale and not dependent on state enforcement. Thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts on this important matter. I trust that the Planning Commission will carefully consider all public input as you make decisions that will shape the future of our community. Thank you guys so much.
Yes, thank you.
Our next speaker is Nicole Williams Archery.
My readers, hi everyone.
Hello.
I'll try to go. I am speaking on item number 7. I am Nicole Williams Archery, and I am also a Victorville Lions Club member. I am a High Desert Community Coalition member, Tobacco Free San Bernardino County member, NAACP, and Reimagining Our Community. I am a joiner and a community member. I want to thank you for sincerely affording me the opportunity to share perspective on the sale of tobacco products in Victorville. It's crucial that we address this matter with precision and adherence to both local and state regulations. First, with appreciation, the effort in the proposed ordinance is awesome. However, it says to relocate tobacco sales within the framework of accessory use, recognizing that it's not inherently a land use issue. However, to ensure clarity and effective enforcement, we propose reconsidering this approach. Our suggestion is to explore the possibility of establishing a standalone TRL, tobacco retail licensing. Separating the tobacco regulations from a broader land use consideration would provide distinct guidelines tailored specifically to the complexities of tobacco sales. This separation is particularly important given the unique regulatory landscape surrounding tobacco products, distinct from other goods like alcohol. So by doing so, we can streamline the enforcement efforts and enhance compliance for both local ordinance and state laws. Moreover, recent legislative that you know about, SB 793 and AB 935, underscore the evolving regulatory environment surrounding tobacco. These laws introduce new considerations and requirements that must be reflected in the local policies. Therefore, we propose collaborating with experts that we know, such as the Public Health Law Center, to ensure that the proposed policy language aligns effectively with these state mandates. Taking the time to seek additional feedback is awesome. And the expertise demonstrates.
Your time is up.
So
Our,
thank you.
our next speaker
Thank you
is
for your comments.
Anthony Collier.
Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Mia Tene Collier Turner. I am a Victorville resident, and I am here to provide my comments on the Victorville deemed approved TRL ordinance. As a concerned resident of Victorville, I believe it is crucial to express my support on this matter for the betterment of our community and our children. Thank you for considering and acknowledging the importance of addressing underage access to tobacco products in Victorville. Cities in San Bernardino such as Colton, Adelanto, and Hesperia have implemented a standalone tobacco retail license ordinance in order to combat youth access to tobacco products. A standalone ordinance makes it so that focus is on one product and that there is no confusion in regard to what regulations apply or don't apply to tobacco. With the intent to align with state regulation, it is important to address all the tobacco regulations separately since SB 793 and AB 935 provisions only apply to tobacco and nicotine products. I trust that the Planning Commission will carefully consider all public input as you make decisions that will shape our future for our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next speaker is Sir Duplashon.
Hello.
Good evening, loved ones. I'm so glad to see you guys all here. It's been a long time since I've seen the whole council together. God is good. I want to start off by thanking you for addressing this issue of alcohol and tobacco use in our community. I would like for you to consider removing tobacco from the proposed ordinance if possible and moving forward with a standalone tobacco retail licensing ordinance that closes the gaps currently existing in state law that provide exemptions for hookah tobacco, sale of premium cigars, sale of piped tobacco, and loose leaf tobacco. A standalone TRL offers the city more flexibility and local control over additional provisions that can help protect the community from the harms of tobacco products. Hookah tobacco, called shisha, is available in a selection of fruit and herbal flavors. And there's a strong and false perception among young people that smoking hookah is safer than smoking cigarettes. In addition, flavored tobacco is more enticing to youth and make it easier for them to become addicted to these products. Health effects of non-cigarette tobacco products such as cigars, cigarillos, smokeless tobacco, and shisha show that non-cigarette tobacco products have addictive levels of nicotine, harmful toxins, and dangerous carcinogens. Removing the exemption for hookah, premium cigars, and pipe loose leaf tobacco is the best way to continue to protect our youth from the dangers of flavored tobacco products. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
That concludes our speaker cards for item 7.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you everyone for your comments. I will go ahead and close the public hearing and then bring it back to the commission for any further dialogue, questions, and ultimately a recommendation motion.
I'll just be loud. We actually are leaving it open to continue or the public hearing.
Do we know if we're continuing it for sure yet? What do you suggest?
I'm with staff's recommendation to continue it so we can consider the comments and some of the written items that we've received.
Okay. Well, then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and leave the public hearing open. And if the commission decides not to continue it, we'll deal with that, but most likely we're going to continue. Okay, I will amend that closing, and I will, for the record, say that I've left the public hearing open. Thank you. Anyone want to jump in with any final comments or thoughts?
I mean, I'll go ahead and make a motion to continue the hearing until the April 10th Planning Commission meeting, based on staff recommendations.
At this point, motion has been made, but can I ask one question before we take a second?
We have a motion on the floor, but you thought we were getting comments.
Yeah, I thought so. And then I just wanted to say that, that there's a motion to continue this. If we could, at the next meeting, I would like to see something I was kind of missing in some of the documentation here would be maybe some evidence from maybe Sheriff's Department report or a little bit more of the public complaints, maybe code enforcement complaints, some documentation to show this, only because you know, in my experience, when things are kind of changed, like when we go into a zone change, that's kind of a changing the rules in the middle of the game side of things. So I take it a little more serious. In this case, you know, going back to, you know, folks that are, I guess I use the general word grandfathered in, you know, to use the deemed approved or the tobacco thing. Not that I'm for or against that at this point, but I would like to see enough justification to be able to, you know, make a determination, because it is a very, you know, very serious issue to deal with, because I believe the extent of the problem helps justify the extent of any kind of solution we may come up with, as staff is still, you know, going to be working on some of this stuff over the next month. So that's what I would ask for at the next meeting, if that makes sense. And then, did anyone else have any comments they wanted to make before we make the motion? No, there's not. Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor.
Okay.
Could you restate the motion? I'm sorry. Could you restate the motion?
Oh, okay. I'll make a motion to, according to staff recommendations, to continue this hearing to April the 10th.
I second that.
I have a first by Commissioner Marsh, a second by Commissioner Messin. I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Marsh?
Yes.
Commissioner Messin?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cook-Gaskins?
Yes.
Chair Kurth?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously to continue the item to April 10th.
Okay. So thank you all for being here and being involved, and this will be noticed again most likely next month if you want to join us then. Okay, that moves us on to our final agenda item, some new business, item number 8. Staff, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Agenda item number 8 is a new business item to discuss the 2023 General Plan Annual Progress Report and the 2023 Housing Element Annual Progress Report, findings, review, presentation, and discussion. As you may recall from last year, the city of Victorville is required to annually report on our progress in meeting the goals and implementation measures of the general plan. This report is due April 1st of each year, as required by the California Department of Housing and Community Development. So the city works with Harrison Associates to complete these surveys, as it's a large data ask of the state for us to put it in their format and to present the items in the format that the state looks for. So I'll go ahead and read the recommendation here, and then I will turn it over to our Harrison Associates consultant, who will provide a brief presentation on the findings thus far. So our recommendation is that the Planning Commission receive a presentation regarding the 2023 General Plan Annual Progress Report and the 2023 Housing Element Annual Progress Report, discuss and provide any necessary feedback regarding the findings, goals, implementation measures, and progress towards implementing the city's general plan, and recommend the City Council receive and file the 2023 General Plan Annual Progress Report and the 2023 Housing Element Annual Progress Report. And with that, I will turn it over to Hita Mosesman and Kyle Westra with Harrison Associates for the presentation.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. My name is Hita Mosesman. We are your consultant on the annual progress reports on the general plan, and we're here to provide, as Alex said, a presentation on those annual progress reports. The agenda for our PowerPoint would be first to do brief introductions, some background on the annual progress reports, an overview of the information contained in the documents, as well as an overview of your general plan elements, planning and development activities that took place in 2023, and then we'll finish with the recommendation. So by way of introduction, we have the Planning Commission here this evening, and staff that worked on this assignment, Scott Webb and Alex Howergy, as well, Assistant City Planner, and then myself and Kyle Westra, who is a Senior Analyst with Harris, who is joining us this evening. By way of background, the reason that you're seeing the annual progress reports this evening is because they are required by state law to show progress towards your general plan goals and actions. The APR, as what I'll call it throughout the presentation, Annual Progress Report, APR, is required to be submitted to 2 different departments at the state. The Housing Element APR is required to be submitted to the Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD. And the remaining general plan APR for all other elements other than housing is required to be submitted to the Office of Planning and Research. So basically, at the end of the day, it is a state law requirement that all jurisdictions must meet. And it allows the city to continue to be eligible for things like affordable housing grants and other types of funding. So the APR that you're looking at for this year basically summarizes all planning and development activities in the city from January 1st to December 31st, 2023. So we're looking at 1 calendar year. And the table on this slide basically summarizes all of the elements contained in the city's general plan when they were originally adopted, which the vast majority was 2008, except for the environmental justice element, a new element in the city's general plan, which was adopted last year with the general plan update that also updated your housing element, which was certified, one of the first in the SCAG region to be certified, as well as the updates to your land use element and your safety element. So starting with we'll go element by element and talk a little bit about what the APR states in the document. We review the adopted goals for the city's land use element as updated about 2 years ago. Balance land use patterns that balance housing, industry or economic development, open space, education, and employment, for example. An efficient and fiscally responsible sustainable growth strategy. Focus on a thriving and resilient economy to provide jobs and diversified tax base. A safe city with high quality of life for residents, and an aesthetically pleasing community. Implementation activities in 2023 that furthered those goals would be the city working to maintain an appropriate balance of growth, while at the same time expanding housing opportunities without discrimination. And there is a big focus on housing right now statewide as we are in the midst of a housing crisis. Goal number 2, the city continued to maximize growth and considered land acquisitions outside of its sphere of influence. The city's economic development department also continues to act in the interest of local businesses to develop new economic opportunities. An example of that would be the CREA that was just adopted, the Community Revitalization Investment Area that sets aside funding for economic development as well as affordable housing. Community education has been incorporated to keep citizens informed and engaged on new policies. Environmental constraints were evaluated, for example, before developing mitigating negative environmental and safety impacts. And the city carefully reviewed new development applications received in accordance with the city's development code and design guidelines. The circulation of element of the general plan that basically is a plan, a long-range plan for how people will move around the city. The goals are good mobility, efficient multimodal transportation, and adequate infrastructure. Implementation activities in 2023 included things like road capital improvement projects, and the city is continuing to consider local guidelines to promote mobility pursuant to Resolution 2031 adopted recently. Road and traffic signal capital improvement projects were also implemented by the city. And grant funding for road improvement projects for environmental programs as well was received to contribute towards the city's goal of adequate infrastructure. With regard to the housing element of the general plan, the goals were things like encouraging development of different housing types, maximizing land utilization for residential development, preserving the existing housing stock, encouraging affordable housing, maximizing solutions for those experiencing homelessness, encouraging home ownership, improving the quality of life in the city and promote placemaking, and finally, affirmatively furthering fair housing in the city as well. Implementation activities included obtaining grants to continue implementing housing programs that have been initiated by the city to meet the needs of residents. And also a very large accomplishment was the completion of the wellness center that opened up. Further implementation activities included adopting an updated accessory dwelling unit or ADU ordinance, which was an action contained in your housing element, developing a housing entitlement checklist, and streamlining ministerial housing review processes in compliance with state law. A recommended adoption of a development code amendment to accommodate various goals and policies of the housing element, and that would include increased housing densities. This is due to be adopted in 2024. All programs that I've mentioned can be found in the city's housing element update, as I said, that recently certified in the early part of 2022. This table is also from your housing element, and it basically represents what your housing allocation or regional housing needs allocation, or RHNA, was for the sixth cycle in the housing element that was certified in 2022. So you can see about 8,200 units at various income levels in the community. In terms of development applications received in 2023, this is something that the state tracks and looks at. There were 356 housing units that were approved, none denied, and over 1,200 that are pending, so for a total of 1,600 housing units. And building activity included 269 entitled units, almost 200 building permits issued, and 500 certificate of occupancies issued as well. With regard to your noise element, the goals there would be noise sensitivity and control. The implementation activities in 2023 included to continue to apply and enforce noise standards, and to continue to ensure that each project analyzes these impacts accurately and to the point of using the most proximate sensitive receptors. The city's safety element goals include protecting the community from hazards, natural and man-made, the protection of public health and safety, and increasing resilience to impacts of climate change and severe weather. Implementation activities last year included various policies and implementation measures in the safety element as outlined in the safety element, and the sort of continued implementation to ensure new development is providing adequate emergency access as it is proposed and approved. With regard to the city's resources element, those goals include things like a safe and sufficient water supply, parklands, protection from natural hazards, conservation of habitat, preservation of cultural resources, good air quality, and energy conservation. Implementation activities included maintaining an adequate water supply in 2023 by requiring that new developments meet established development standards and water capital improvement projects. Park capital improvement projects continue to facilitate the development of sufficient parkland, and also 100 and 500-year flood hazard maps were maintained by the city as well. Additional goals for the resources element. The city maintained, or I should say implementation measures, maintained a geographical database of the distribution and composition of natural habitat. Biological surveys and impact assessments are continued to be required for new projects to minimize impacts. The city also continues to protect archaeological, paleontological, and historic resources by requiring the monitoring, preservation, and assessments for new projects. Compliance with California Air Resources Board regulations also continue under the city's climate action plan to meet air quality goals. And energy conservation and sustainability continue to be promoted by the Energy's code standards and development standards, which really address efficient building designs and on-site electrical generation. And finally, the environmental justice element, those goals include reducing pollution exposure, improving air quality, improving access to public facilities and services, healthy foods, physical activity, recreation, safe and sanitary affordable housing, reducing exposure to climate hazards, and improving civic engagement. Implementation measures included over $349,000 of grant funding to support environmental programs. In addition, the city continued its efforts to make improvements to existing public facilities through collaboration with the community, and the city expanded food access through economic development efforts and promoted nutrition by partnering with schools and private development with local agriculture. Other implementation activities include physical activity and recreation being promoted by implementing complete streets, urban greening, and increased connectivity through walking, biking, and public transit. The city is currently conducting a feasibility study on rent stabilization and other local resources while continuing to implement programs to mitigate unhealthy domicile conditions and facilitate necessary maintenance and community education. The city continues to provide public information on emergency preparedness and collaborate with immigrant community organizations to develop alternative funding resources, and encouraging residents to engage with the decision-making process through various city initiatives and eliminating language barriers. With regard to planning and development activities, this table summarizes the activity in 2023. These are projects that were approved, 59, one completed application, and as you can see, several projects submitted, issued, and assigned. Some did require corrections out of those submitted. Some are currently in review, and there were 41 out of 141 applications that were incomplete and needed additional information. And then this table summarizes the capital improvement projects and the expenditures on things like traffic signals, roads, water, sewer, and parks, and the number of projects. So there were 35 total projects for capital improvements at a cost of about $69 million. And that concludes the summary of the APR and onto the recommendation. So as noted in the staff report before you this evening, it's recommended that the Planning Commission recommend the City Council to receive and file both the General Plan Annual Progress Report and the Housing Element Annual Progress Report. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you for that report. Are there any questions from the commission for the Harrison Associates team?
I had just a quick one. It says that there was 35 total projects, but I only add up 23. What were the other 12?
I'm going to pull up the slide. With 35. I know there was a lot of data sort of presented to you here, and I'd like to find the slide.
It's the last slide.
Got it. Okay, let me share my screen. Apologies, I'm having some, here we go.
Me too.
So hopefully everyone can see the screen. Right, well, okay, that didn't work.
We did see that, what you just did there.
Oh, you did, okay, my screen was
We
blank.
did see it. We did see it when you
Okay.
pulled it.
Okay, I'm gonna try this again and not do the presentation to see if that will work a little bit better. Okay, is that, can
Yeah,
everyone see
that's,
that?
yeah, we see
Okay.
that on our screen.
Right, so this is the slide that you're referring to?
Yes, so I believe it's 22 that it adds up to, not 35. So I was just wondering what the other projects were.
I may need to defer to my colleague who is on the call with me,
Yep.
Kyle Westra, to answer that question.
Sure, I can speak to that, and it does look like here in our APR draft that the correct number is 22. You're right about that. It must have been some type of error in the PowerPoint.
Okay,
But thank you for catching that.
thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? Okay, no more questions. Thank you, Harrison Associates. We appreciate your work. On this one, do I need to open up the public hearing for comment?
I don't see it as a public hearing item. It's new business.
Okay. Okay, then all we need to do then is just make the recommendation to staff. Okay, and I'll do that. I'll make the recommendation that the city council receive and file a 2023 general plan annual progress report, 2023 housing element annual progress report.
I second that.
I have a first by Chair Kurth, a second by Commissioner Messin. I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Marsh?
Yes.
Commissioner Messin?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas? Vice Chair Cook Askins?
Yes.
Chair Kurth?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And then that brings us on to any reports from commission members and then staff. We can start with Commissioner Thomas. Anything?
No, I have nothing. Thank you.
Anything, Commissioner Cook Thomas or Cook Askins? I'm sorry.
I have nothing.
Nothing. Commissioner Marsh, anything?
Well, just one thing. I just want to say thank you for allowing me to attend the California League of Cities Planning Commissioners Academy. They did do something new this time. They did their kickoff meeting or whatnot. They had I guess she said she was world renowned, but a motivational speaker and stuff. So that kind of kept us going I tried what she recommended when I got home, and my children, they kind of looked at me like I fell off the edge of the cliff. But anyway, it was fun. It was fun. So thank you.
Good. Commissioner Messin?
I just wanted to apologize for being a little late and thank you, Commissioner Thomas, for providing the invocation. And I saw the State of the City video and just wanted to say that it's really nice to see some of those projects actually being showcased and completed. So it's thankful to be here and appreciate staff.
Great. Yeah, and we had a pretty big agenda item balance tonight, and I want to thank staff. I know that the stuff that Daisy had worked on, Alex, some of those were some pretty big projects that I'm sure you've been digging hard and probably will continue on that one. So thank you for that work. Any reports from staff?
I have none at this time.
Okay. Well then, thank you everyone, and meeting adjourned.
No, probably next.